Good afternoon, and thank you for joining Encore Palm Beach County. We have a special program today with Whitney Cherner of the Alpert Jewish Family Services, and she is going to speak to us today about a new career services program starting in West Palm Beach, Florida. So Whitney, I'll turn it over to you. We're anxious to hear all you have to share with us today.
Okay, thank you again, Rosemary, Christine, all of you for having me here. I'm super excited to be here. I have a PowerPoint, so I'll talk through the PowerPoint and then we'll open it up to kind of, Q&A if you have questions, but also just to kind of hear your feedback and your feelings on what we need as a community. So here we go. I prefer my presentations to be more like conversations. So again, I know it's hard in the Zoom environment, but if you want to save your questions, we can go from there. All right, slideshow from beginning. All right. So again, the current name of the program is pretty much Career Services, and Empower You is the program that is specifically for those who are unemployed and underemployed. And our tagline is find your path, find yourself. Many times, part of what motivates us and helps us define ourselves is understanding what our path is, and how we're using that again to connect those pieces of our own identity and what we do. Interesting. Oh, here we go. I don't know. All right. So Jewish Community Career Services came from COVID-19 and the pandemic hitting. And so what happened was the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County got together and they decided, hey, how can we serve our community? And they created something called a J-HELP Coronavirus Emergency Fund. And we found out that in Palm Beach County, 1 in 5 had lost their jobs due to COVID, and our unemployment rate, as you all recall, jumped to over 14%. So this was Federation's response to helping heal the community, and the program then became a collaboration between Alpert Jewish Family Service and the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County. So I always like to say career services is really, it's an empowerment program. And I always say it's cleverly disguised as career and employment services, because what we're doing is we're helping people to be the best version of themselves. And we figured out that the best way to help someone is to make it possible for them to help themselves. So again, that kind of teaching people how to fish concept. In career services, we offer individualized career counseling. We offer some workshops, some trainings, and then we offer regular coffee talk groups, which are really places for those who are unemployed or underemployed to get together and talk about what is going on in regard to their job search, their feelings. When you're looking for a job, lots of times you feel isolated. You feel like, oh, I'm out here all alone. No one else feels like this. Who am I anymore? So it's really great to be able to have a regular place to talk to other people who are going through the same process. At this point, I would say most of our services are really individualized. What I noticed from offering workshops and trainings is that people weren't as interested in how do you write a resume. They were interested in their resume, right? So they wanted feedback on their resume and they wanted that connection. They weren't as interested in like, what does the big picture job search look like, but what does my job search look like? I've also kind of learned that with clients, a 3-pronged approach is really working best, meaning we look at your existing work history, your existing network, and we say, okay, well, based on this, what's a good direction to go? And then we take into account, the current, what's going on in the current environment, what opportunities are out there. Then the other piece we look at is something I like to call a pivot plan. So that's taking your transferable skills and looking into, well, what career could you pivot to that makes sense in the current environment, that has the opportunities that you're looking for, that maybe is more interesting to you. And then my third, and I really feel like most important piece, is your side hustle or side gig. And I always feel like whether you are employed or not, you should always have something on the side going that is yours, that you feel like, hey, I have complete and total ownership of this. I can like increase it and bring in more. I can decrease it. Sometimes your side hustles turn into your main hustles. Lots of times it's a passion project or something you like to do anyway. So that helps sometimes if you're not thrilled with what your 9 to 5 looks like. So we work on all three of those really at the same time. I also partner with my clients. So I work at the exact same pace my clients work. So I get some people and they're like, let's go. And then I get some people who are like, well, I need to understand what my big picture is, and they need to like talk through it more. And either pace is fine, but I let the client take the lead. We offer services for employers in the community. So we'll work with employers on finding pre-selected job candidates. One of the beauties of this program is that I know my candidates. So someone can come to me and they can tell me exactly what they're looking for. And if I have someone, then I'll try to make that match or that introduction. We offer employee retention strategies. So, sometimes like managers need a little coaching, or sometimes, we can step in and help, especially in small businesses, to help that employee, manager, supervisor develop strategies to stay in their current job. As we all know, it costs a lot of money and time to rehire someone. So many times it's great to keep the person that you have in place, and with a little coaching, it can help. I think especially we're seeing that now in this time where many people are working from home, we're feeling disconnected, we're feeling burnt out. So that's another piece. And then we can also help with outplacement. So, if people are being let go, here's a free resource. Again, that is individualized. That is all about, partnering with that person and helping them go forward and I like to say in their next chapter, right? So we offer those services for employers. And again, this is another place where I think there's a lot of opportunity to focus on connections. So it's not always like a job, right? Some of it is an informational interview, or how do I connect, or how do I expand my existing network? Become You is a program that's specifically for women. So basically what happened during the pandemic, women were hit much harder than men. And I guess because I have a bunch of women in the room, I can say I feel like that's always the case. So here we are. Like kids were staying home from school. Guess who had to handle that? Parents needed help. Other family members needed help, and women really had to step up. But what happened was it really sidelined women's careers, where a lot of women felt like they had to choose, do I help my child or do I do my career? And so we saw a lot of women take a step back in the workplace. And that's going to have an impact on generations to come. So the clock in the women's workforce has been turned backwards. So Become You is really a program for women to really understand, okay, who am I now, right? At this place in my career, with my family, with myself, and who do I want to be? So we really kind of look at those questions. And it's not a program for someone who needs a job yesterday. It's a program for women who really want to do a deep dive into exploring who they are and figuring out what their path looks like. And this program is funded by Women's Philanthropy of Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our candidates. All the names have been changed to protect privacy, but it's interesting the different people that we have worked with thus far. So I have some younger candidates. I have Andrew, who's a microbiologist, recent graduate. And, he was inspired to study biology because his mother was diagnosed with cancer. He was one of those kids that, took the special classes in high school, got into these special programs, went to college, came out with this degree, spent a little time trying to get himself together after college, then was ready to go out and get a job, and bam, COVID hit. So here he is, microbiologist and struggling to get a job. We've also found that lots of times our recent graduates, they're not launching as quickly, right? So they're moving home. So then you have those family dynamics going on. And we think that, we think after you graduate, you should be prepared to go out there and get a job, and you should know what you're doing. And we're finding that our recent graduates, lots of times don't have those skills. So they're not sure about a resume. They don't know how to market themselves, because getting a job is a sales presentation right now. And it has been for a while. So we really worked with Andrew, and he's going through the process. He's had some good interviews, and he's kind of moving along. Sherry is another one of our candidates. She's a strategic business intelligence and analytics. So she has a great background, solid resume. She's a single mother of 2. She earns 6 figures. COVID hit, she lost her job, and now she's on, unemployment and public assistance. So she's bringing in like $200 a week. And again, what kind of happens sometimes in these situations is, as I assume jobs in South Florida pay less. They just do. I don't know why they do. Everyone brings it up, but they do. So you have to decide, do I take a job, making less than I was, or do I keep my public assistance? Like, what makes sense? So, Sherry's been in that position. Affordable housing, is a huge problem here, especially now. So Sherry's kind of dealing with all of these things, but again, solid professional, solid work history, solid resume, and here's someone struggling. I've got Denise. Denise is a teacher. She was a stay-at-home mother with 2 young kids. Her husband was in one of the industries that was hit hard by COVID. He lost his job. He eventually got a job. And now Denise is like, okay, like, what do I do now? What does my life look like now? And Denise became one of my Become You clients. And we really kind of focused on, okay, well, what's important? And so for Denise, what was important? She wanted to support her family. She wanted to contribute, but she wanted to be available to her 2 children as well. And so for Denise, what we came up with was several different side hustles that then made up a main hustle. And we're also seeing that employers are liking that. They're liking contract workers. They're liking part-time workers rather than those full positions. So if you do have that flexibility in your schedule, or, you can open your mind to, I'm looking for a job, but it's not the traditional 9-to-5 gig. I can be open to other things. Then there's a lot of positions out there that seem to make some sense. Then I have Rob. Rob has a background in operations, over 20 years of experience. So we know when we get into the over 20 years of experience, like, things are going to come up. And I always say it's not a problem unless it's a problem for you, right? It's all about what I'm putting out there. So Rob also has a military background, and he wants to pivot to healthcare. So again, we have to kind of change his resume to emphasize those transferable skills. Rob's a pivot story. So how do you go from operations to healthcare? Well, it's not as hard as it looks, right? Because we identify what the transferable skills are. We emphasize those in the resume. Since he had a military background, he, had military I'm using the wrong word because I'm not in the military, but he had military work throughout those 20 years. So we just switched around his resume some to emphasize that rather than operations. And Rob actually recently got a job. So this is kind of who some of our clients are. And it gives you a good idea of these are the type of people that are out there looking for jobs right now and needing support. I always like to say, if you want a job, there is a job. Does it happen on our time frame normally? No. So it is a process. And that's where I come in a lot of times, is providing that support, coming up with different ideas, doing that check-in, having that accountability, and then also creating those connections. It's hard right now. And that's the other thing I do, is I really want to talk to my candidates and my clients about realistic expectations and being in it for the long haul. The other thing that I'm working on, again, in regard to those connections, is like having an employer panel. So I'm looking for people in the community who want to be engaged in the work of helping people connect with others that increase their chances of getting a job. As we all know, over 80% of jobs are found through networking. I always say, like, go talk to someone, ask them how they found their job. I guarantee you it was a friend of a friend of a friend. It was my sister's boyfriend, something. Like, somehow we connect. And so by providing this type of network for our clients, as well as for our community as a whole, we can really support people in finding those jobs, networking, and then hopefully at some point job placement. And other than that, I'm going to stop sharing now. I'll open it up to some questions. I'll open it up to some discussion. But I'm really interested to hear your feedback, to get your ideas and your thoughts, and to understand what you're experiencing right now. So I will stop share. I feel like from technology that went great.
I know, I'm in great.
So everyone, I mean, we're a small group. So if you want to unmute and we can just talk, I'd love to hear some feedback, love to answer some questions. Tell me how I can help.
I don't know why it is, but I always seem to go first. But Midge, I see you were ready to pipe up, so you take it on. Take it away.
Thank you, Rosemary. Whitney, I do have a question. I just finished a contract with Right Management as a career coach, and I found that I had, especially with women, I had a lot of people that were laid off in the compliance field. There were a lot of people in legal compliance, risk management, that kind of thing. What did you find? What do you find as far as a frequent industry that you're seeing that you're doing some coaching with?
I mean, for me, it's kind of across the board. So you have to also understand, like, Right Management, the clients that you're having there is different than the clients that I was seeing that were affiliated with Jewish Family Services, right?
Okay.
So I didn't have a certain type. I'm just seeing people from all different walks of life coming in. The program, as I mentioned, is kind of going to be repositioned a little bit. And so I think with that, we will see different clients. But I think it's hard for everyone. And I think, like, I have a woman right now that I'm working with, and she's got like a background in analytics, solid work history again. Like, I look at her resume, could she use some help with interview skills? Yeah, but like, she should be able to, get something. And so, Midge, I'm sure you experienced it with your own clients in regard to this. Like, there's just a lot of frustration with these individuals who are very employable and just like looking for those opportunities. So I know I didn't answer your question directly, but I don't have a specific type of client. I'm just seeing it's just across the board.
Yeah, and I mean, all different industries. We're having, I saw insurance, financial, a lot of hospitality.
Yeah.
But you know, in various different roles, but it really kind of struck me that I had a lot of compliance people, which I thought was kind of interesting because it seemed like they were, maybe, you know, it was just common to be letting them go. And I was kind of surprised about that.
Mm.
I think companies, some of them saw it as an opportunity, like to maybe cut extra positions and that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And they really kind of looked at where they could
Hmm.
make those cuts. And that's really hard, I think, for people to feel like, okay, I got caught up in that piece.
Hmm.
If nobody else has a question, I have several, Whitney.
Okay.
Okay. It, this is a new service, and it is something that is needed in the north part of Palm Beach County. We're in Encore has been, as you know, in business for almost 5 years now. And our focus has been to connect people over 50 with new work and volunteer opportunities. But we haven't been able to offer much in the way, and we, as you know, we don't place people, we refer people to the resources that can help them. And up till now, there really hasn't been anything in North Palm Beach County if we encounter people who live up that way. So we're happy to see your program developing. How are you reaching people? What is your marketing strategy? Because of course, even pre-COVID, that's always a challenge for nonprofits. We certainly experience it with Encore. So how are you connecting with people now?
So again, as I mentioned, we're kind of in this place of transition, but a lot of it has been, online. I mean, the program's probably going to be rebranded to an extent. Since we're part of Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, I mean, I think that's where the majority of our marketing comes from. So we show up in their newsletters, their messages. They really are very committed to the program and committed to sharing this with the community. I've tried to connect, with existing local agencies, Career Source, other places. We have a Facebook page. We have a LinkedIn page. We have an Instagram page. Not as active as they can be, but again, I'm like kind of messing with the branding some and positioning. And I think once that's set, we'll really be able to do a hard push. I also envision doing kind of maybe like monthly events that are specifically geared to the needs of the community, like, doing an event where, we're just doing like free LinkedIn pictures and providing an opportunity for people to find out about the services that way. But also, I think even more so connecting, those needing jobs with people in the community that have businesses, whether they're for informational interviews, whether it's networking type things, but we all know that it's going to come from the connections.
This is one of the things that we Encore have found frustrating. Your program today was included in a newsletter and at least 2 or 3 email blasts that went out to almost 1,000 people. And our experience, and we've been doing things monthly since last April to try and provide services to people. It's frustrating. I don't know whether you experience it or not. We don't have a feeder source like the Federation to our program. But it's frustrating when we send out almost 1,000 emails about a program like the one today. And we get a 20% open rate on our emails, which is not bad. Over 200 people open them, read them, and so forth. 11 people signed up for today, and 6 people showed up. This, I don't know whether you're experiencing the same thing, but it's a little frustrating, particularly when, you hear that so many people are out of work and you say, well, here's somebody who could help you. And so what are they all doing out there? I don't really get it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I kind of touched upon. Like, I did find this. So, I put together workshops and I'm putting together this and that, and you put it out there and you have a couple of people show up, which is fine. But I really have gotten to the point where I feel like there's so many resources out there, so many. People are literally zoomed out, like it is fatigue. And that's why I decided, you know what? I don't think people need more workshops. I think what people want is individualized services, and they want the connection. They want to feel like, and again, like this is like me wearing my other hat too, because really my side hustle is I'm a licensed clinical social worker. So I see, so I come from that place too. So I can kind of see big picture. But what I've seen is people want to be able to connect. So in career services, I've decided, like, workshops, go on Indeed.com. They have fabulous workshops. Rails, I think, has done a great job providing programming. You can go to, like, vocational services in Boston or whatever. You can hop on anyone's workshops. I don't think it's a good use of time at this point because there's just so much out there. So what I'm focusing on is what people need, and people need the connection, and people need the, hey, Whitney, what's wrong with my resume? Or me providing, like, either, mock interviews or connecting, like, someone in our community. So I think we just have to kind of change it a little bit to have that personalized touch, to connect where people are and understand what they need. And then to kind of let this, notion of, like, this is what it should look like, go. Because, like, for me, I was super frustrated. Like, I gave all these great workshops, no one's showing up. And it wasn't me, it wasn't the workshops. People were just like, I've been on 20 workshops this week, Whitney, I'm good.
That's right.
However, your program today was an opportunity to connect with somebody who can provide that personal service, and people are not taking advantage of it. And so, and we've referred a number of people, as you know, to the Rails Career and Employment Service because of the personalized service that they provide. At the same time, we hear all this frustration about people go on online job boards and they don't get a response. It's almost as if everybody is waiting for somebody to take their hand and lead them to the perfect opportunity for them. And life doesn't work that way. You've got to work at finding work.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's all personal connection.
Yeah,
I mean, go ahead, Lori, sorry.
I want to agree with that. I came here not really knowing what to expect. I'm actually a job seeker. So somebody sent that to me saying, yeah, maybe this can help. I've been looking for a job since August. I have done so much of what you're talking about, applied to jobs, trying to make connections to people who are hiring. And I have not gotten a single interview since after the first month. So I've had people look at my resume. I've had people look at my LinkedIn, and of course tweaked it. I tweak it for every position I apply to. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it is the personal connection, even though I'm trying to do those. And I think a lot of people like me are frustrated. I'm in human resources. I know a lot about, interviewing and making connections and so forth. But that doesn't seem to be helping me. So I think having the personal connections and making actual personal connections would make a big difference.
Yeah, that's what my take is on it, is it's about like utilizing the program, right, as an engagement opportunity for those connections. And because we are connected with Federation, it gives us a lot, more opportunity to leverage connections. And so that's kind of where the program is going, because it's about the connections. And it's also, part of it is mindset right now. It's understanding that this is a process. It's understanding that now that everyone has discovered we can work remote. Before, your competition was in your backyard. Now your competition is like, who knows where?
Worldwide.
That's a whole thing. Like JFS, I look at JFS now, they had 2 recent hires. One is in, greater New York. That's our new CFO, and the other one is way down south. They're never coming to the office. Not that we go to the office anymore. But my point is, before, they wouldn't have been part of the competition.
Right.
But the flip side of that is that you can also apply to positions that are remote. I mean, I'm finding all of these remote positions that are now opened up to me that wouldn't have been.
Exactly. So it's like, it's really looking at it all. I always try to take a strengths perspective and say, okay, well, what's working? Well, that's what's working. You don't have to look just in South Florida anymore. You
Right.
can look, on a national, international level. And it's, companies also, though, are being slower. Like, so it's a slower process, because they're like, we don't have to fill this role right away. We've been dragging our feet and we're still okay. And now, like, what I'm seeing too, and I think this is really important, is culture and the right fit. So companies are taking more time, but it's also important for those seeking jobs to say, hey, is this a culture that's going to work for me? Is this something where I feel like this is a good fit? So it's kind of all of those things at once. And so with my work with clients, as well as my work with the community, it's kind of doing all of those things at once. So for Lori, like my work with you would be keeping you positive, checking in on your plan, providing support and partnership along the way, and then also reaching out and looking at connections and seeing like, how do we do all of this together? And it's a process right now. So the fatigue you're feeling is real. Others are feeling the same fatigue. Do I think it's gotten a little bit better? Yeah, like a little bit, a tiny bit, right?
Because the other thing that's happening too is that because there are so many people out there, companies are being very, very particular. And while I haven't gotten a lot of feedback, the feedback that I have gotten is that they're looking for the needle in the haystack. I mean, there was one energy company that they said, oh, they're looking for somebody with experience in the power industry. Power industry. How many people have that?
Right.
Another one was in the timeshare industry supporting sales and marketing. I mean, that is a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, this is what I think is crazy, is they can, right? Before they would have their like wish list, and it was like very much a wish list.
Right.
But now,
how many boxes can you check on the wish list?
Right.
Yeah. But now they really can. And that's where I think connections come in, right? So like, you might not have everything, but let's say in my network or our extended network, I can say, oh, maybe you could just have a cup of coffee with Lori, a virtual cup of coffee or whatever. And, just talk to her, and maybe you have some ideas, right? Because people love to talk about themselves. So like, you meet with them, they're talking about themselves, and then they might think, oh, well, Lori might actually be able to, this might be a good fit. Or, hey, my friend who works here. And that's how people are really getting their jobs, is those connections. That's why I say, like, we're not a placement agency. Like, people call me, they're like, Whitney, I'm looking for this job, making this much, doing this. And I'm like, that is great. Let me know how it goes. That's not what I do. So that's not how people get jobs. People get jobs through those connections.
It's very interesting that we're having this conversation. And I should say, also, Whitney, every time we have an event like this, it's recorded, it's shared on our website. So because you have a lot of good things to say today, apart from your presentation, the questions bring out additional information, which is good. But I also plan to put it in our newsletter that's going, a link to it on the recorded session on our website, which, by the way, Christine handles all that for us, thank goodness.
Mhm.
And so people who didn't show up today will have a second chance to hear you. But you know, I'm really, as Christine knows, I'm close to 82, so I'm getting a little hard-nosed about things. And my view of things is the people who win the race are the ones who go the extra mile. A businessman told me maybe 45 years ago, all it takes to be different from the crowd is to do just 6% more. I said, 6% more? I thought I had to give 100% more. He says, no, because a lot of people are not, they're not working very hard at whatever it is. They're not working hard at life. Life is a job. And a lot of people are drifting through it and they're looking for somebody to save them. They're not willing to do the work.
Mhm.
So you're providing a personalized service that is very valuable. And I actually just got off a session with Career Source sponsored a program this morning on women in the workforce and how the pandemic has affected women's loss of jobs and so forth. And one of the big things that came out of that was that, and we don't focus on women, nor do you solely, but what they said was that women do not network enough. They do not use their personal network effectively to find the next job, even when they're employed, much less when they're unemployed. And a lot of people don't seem to know how to do it well. They think that they go to a get together and they pass out their cards and they yammer at people, and that's networking. That is not networking, effective networking.
Right.
And Karen Roberts, who is on our board also, and I just yesterday, we're talking about the fact that maybe we need to help people learn how to use their personal network more effectively.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now I learned how to do that 1983 when I was looking to change careers. And back then it was as true today then as it is today. You said 80% of jobs are found through personal connections. And I was trained in how to do it, how to do informational interviews and go from my immediate circle of acquaintances to their circle and so forth. And I did that for months and I met hundreds of people. I was offered jobs in fields that I would never have known about because the focus was, as you said, on stressing with each person you met transferable skills that meet their needs, because it is a sales job. You are selling what you know and what you're good at and trying to find somebody who needs it, filling a need. So, you know, there's nothing new under the sun. It's just people seem to have been acculturated that I'll just go on a job board and I'll find a job. And that's not the way it works, really. So
No.
I think there's more help that people are needed, not just women, everybody.
Whitney, you hit on a key point earlier when you were talking about that an interview is a sales position. And I think for so many, and I see this with my own clients as well, especially as we get older, you know, our mindset automatically goes to our first jobs, our first interviews, and how we kind of sat there like, I hope I get this job. And I try and remind my clients that you have to sell yourself, in that the job has to be more about you asking them what they can offer you. And so I think, you know, especially women are kind of intimidated if they're sitting in front of a man who's, you know, CEO or whatever the case may be, instead of saying, okay, this is what I bring to the table, you know, this is what I need for my lifestyle, or however you want to present it, and how can your corporation, your business, whatever, how can that support me as well? So we have to remember to just tell people, or to stress to them, that it's a two-way street, because not to go into an interview praying that they hire you, because we all know those positions never last.
Yeah.
Right. Christine, to piggyback on that, one of the things that I tell a lot of my candidates is, when you go on an interview, it's a two-way conversation, but you have to find out information to determine if this organization is good enough for your career.
Exactly.
Is it good enough for you?
Right.
Not only if you're good enough for them, but this is your career. You've worked many years nurturing it and building it, and you want it to go forward. Is this organization going to contribute to that final goal? And when they start to look at it in that perspective, I think it calms the nerves a little bit. And when they're having a conversation with the recruiter starts to see them more as a peer. And how is it going to be if I'm going to work with them? And I think it just calms down the nerves, the tenseness of the situation, and it really does become so much more productive.
I agree. I agree. And I think too, it's really there again, being more confident. Exactly what you said. I think it allows the candidate to be more confident in how they present themselves, because we all undermine what it is we do bring to the table. Right. And so, you know, as Whitney said, when you're confident in what your skills are and how they can transfer, and a big part of that I always find is doing your research on the company before you show up for the interview, so you can actually show them that you have an interest, that you see it as a good fit for yourself. And, you know, and then it's a question of being sure that it's aligned with everything that you want for your career, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
I always, like, before someone goes into an interview, I say, wake up that morning and you write down the 10 reasons why you are the perfect candidate for that job. Mm-hmm. And you read it and you believe it and you own it. And then walk into that interview, and do not sit there and have people fire questions at you and feel like you have to have the answer. A good interview is like a date, right? It's a conversation. Mm-hmm. I'm going to share a little bit. You're going to share a little bit. I'm going to share a little bit. And so that changes the whole mindset. I also teach, you know, my candidates to use their resume almost like an agenda. So if you have a well-written resume, you're using it as a tool for the meeting. So you'll say, oh, see, if you see back in my last, you know, position, I did XYZ. And again, you're speaking in accomplishment statements. And then asking questions, like being curious. How did you get your start? Oh, I noticed from your LinkedIn profile that you started here and you're there. Again, I'm showing you I did my research, not like in a weird stalker way, but like I want to know who I'm talking to, and that's completely and totally appropriate. Yep. So it's kind of teaching those skills, but also, you know what? Part of interviewing is faking it, right? Like, so it's uncomfortable. So we have to work with that too. You have to name it. You have to say, yeah, this is super uncomfortable. Networking. Rosemary, it sounds like you are a true networker. Like for me, I have to dig deep. I have to bring it, and I'm exhausted after. So you know what? But that works. And so I think if we can all just recognize that it is part of the process, then it makes it more human and real. And it means that we can also be a little bit more kind to ourselves.
A little thing I'd like to add. My son says I have a big ego because I'm not afraid of speaking up or asking for what I want or telling you how wonderful I am or anything like that. But the other side of it is, and I like to think I have this ability, is I'm truly interested in the other person. I'm truly interested in all the people I meet. And I personally find it very exciting to learn about somebody. So I think that if people could cultivate that piece of it a little bit more, it would be more natural and easy for
And I'm
them.
sure that comes across. And I can tell you, as somebody who's interviewed a lot of people, that the two things that either turn me off or that I really like in interviews is somebody who has done their homework. If they come in and they don't know anything about the company, no. And if they have good, intelligent questions. So those are two things that I look for as an interviewer.
Whitney, is there a charge for your services? I not clear about that.
No, Rosemary, thank you for the plug. Everything is free to both our clients and our businesses. And again, it's funded by the Federation. It's a collaboration with Jewish Family Services. And, you know, I can also make referrals when I'm working with clients to Jewish Family Services for anything that, you know, a person needs. So whether it's financial assistance, whether it's clinical services, life planning, senior services. So it's really kind of nice, the relationship that we have, and it helps to support, you know, people in all ways, because those things like have to be addressed as well.
Well, I will
That's
certainly
why I like your program, is because the focus is support. And I'll ask a question maybe other people are thinking, do you have to be Jewish to utilize your services?
Nope, and that's true for our program. It's also true for Rails. You do not
Right.
have to be Jewish. We're free to everyone. It's a service to the community. So again, you know, please let people know. Please let me know how I can be helpful. And you know, I think, like I said, the program is growing. And the more we as a community can come together to connect the different pieces, the more people we have.
Well, I will
Whitney,
certainly be in
actually,
touch.
I was
I'll
just going to
certainly
say,
be-
Lori wants to know more about the other organizations like Rails. And of course, Rosemary, you can share about Encore as well. So Whitney, Rails, you mentioned Rails.
So I only know about Rails because I started that program. So I was there for 5 years. So that's kind of where I started my career and employment services career. Sometimes I think it's weird. Like I'm like, how did this become a career? But I actually really like it. Again, like it's an empowerment program. So Rails has a very similar program. They have done an amazing job in regard to virtual programming. They have an established brand. So, you know, you can go on, you can see all their social media and that sort of thing. They send out, I think, weekly newsletters. They serve clients who are in Boca, Delray, and Deerfield Beach. We serve clients from Boynton Beach all the way north and west.
Okay, so you would be the one that would.
Yeah, I would probably be the one. You know, if you're interested in their programming, you know, I can reach out to them and be like, you know, Lori would like to attend, whatever. Because like I said, they have more of the programming piece that they've kind of worked on. I've focused more, like I said, because it's just me. Like I speak in the we, but really when I say we, I'm talking about myself. So I've focused more on the individualized services. So
Laurie, have you been on our website?
No,
Encore's website?
no, this is all new to me.
Okay, on our website, encorepbc.org,
Okay.
there is a page called resources. And that's all the resources we've been able to pull together that can help people find work. And the Rails Community career and employment services on that
I
page.
will check it out.
Yeah, and then just reach out, like anything I can do to connect you to any place in the community. And then, also whatever I can do in regard to helping with your job search. If you, want to work on any interview skills, whatever I can do, just let me know.
I certainly will.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm around.
I appreciate that. And on that note, I have to go because I do have another Zoom thing at noon at 1. And I need to grab something to eat before I do that. So ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you,
And,
Lori, for
Nice
joining
to
us.
meet you.
Whitney, I will be in touch. Thank you
Definitely.
again.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Lori.
Okay, any other comments, ladies, want to share before we close out? Rosemary?
Well, I don't want to be the only one talking, but I do have a question. You said something about an employer panel.
Mhm.
It's kind of like a mentoring people who work for companies, and is that what I understand?
Well, again, what my vision is, and again, it's kind of evolving, but like my vision is that I have some committed people in the community that I can go send a candidate's resume and profile to and say, look, we need help finding this person a job. And they utilize their networks and we help to find jobs. So that's what I would love. Is that there right now? It's kind of in the works. Again, I'm also focusing on the connections piece, I think, more than the placement piece, because, connections are also valuable and sometimes even more valuable because, you might meet someone and I might not have a job now or have heard anything, but in the future. I mean, that's the other thing I really try to stress with candidates is you have to put yourself in a box. Right? So I have to be able to associate your name with who you are and what you do. That's it. And sometimes you have candidates and they're like, oh, I do this and I do that. And I'm like, I stopped listening. I don't know what you do. And so we have to be able to help our candidates like put themselves in a box. So when your name comes up, I associate you with that name and that position, and I can make that connection. So that's also something that I think is really important.
Did anybody else have any questions? Midge, Christine? I don't know.
Oh,
Christine
I
is
think we
on.
covered quite a bit.
Yeah, this was good.
Yeah, very good.
You're probably aware, Whitney, that we are working towards an event in October, the Wisdom and Experience event, to recognize those employers who are committed to recruiting or retraining or retaining mature, experienced workers. Would your network of relationships perhaps be useful in identifying those kinds of employers that we could connect with? Maybe for a nomination or a sponsorship?
I mean, I would have to see, like as I mentioned, right now, our focal point is more on the connections piece than the placements piece. But we'll see how things evolve. So if someone does come to mind, I'll think, I'll definitely try to connect the pieces.
Yeah, we're not looking to place people with employers, just to raise the consciousness of people that there are employers who are interested in mature, experienced workers and supporting them.
Yeah, no, I know that is always an issue. And it's an issue when I work with candidates now. So should I, meet anyone or come across anyone that sounds like that would be a good fit, I will definitely pass their name along to you.
Yeah, there's a Wisdom and Experience page on our website. And if you should want to nominate a company,
Okay.
there will be, it isn't on there yet, but the nomination forms will be on there.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's good to know.
Well, thank you very much, Whitney. This was very informative, and I think Lori will definitely be in touch. She sounded very interested in everything you had to offer. Midge, as always, I mean, I'm sure you got some great information too.
It was very interesting, Whitney. Thank you very much. And I just sent you a connection invitation on LinkedIn.
Oh, great, great, good. I'll be happy to stay in touch. All right, well, it was wonderful being here. Thank you all again. If there's anything else I can ever do, let me know. And I'm sure we will figure out how to continue to collaborate.
Thank you, and I'll be sending out the recording.
Okay, perfect. Have a great
Okay,
day.
thank you, Whitney.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.